Welcome back to the Common Sense Show. I'm Micah, and you are you. Today, I have a special guest.
You're muted.
Oh,
You were
I've been
muted,
muted
but
this whole time.
yeah.
I'm
Start
going to
again.
start that in because this is live. So um, let me just try that again. So today, I have with me a distinguished guest, Brian Freed. Brian is a distinguished inventor, entrepreneur, and public figure who boasts an impressive portfolio of 15 patents. If you're trying to figure out whether or not you should launch your one patent, Brian has 15 patents. He's a renowned presence in the industry. He's a founder of enterprises like Inventor Smart, National Inventor Club. Brian is the man when it comes to inventions, and we're going to talk to him about that today. He's one of the most unique guests I've had, given that I haven't had a guest who specializes in bringing inventions to fruition, and to patent, and then of course to the market to gain cash. So if you have an idea for a patent, for an invention, something that can make money in the marketplace, then today's show is right up your alley. I'm excited to talk to Brian about this. Brian has a lot more stuff that he's into, and we're going to, of course, talk about that when we discuss with him in our conversation. A little housekeeping before we switch to our conversation, which is if you want to be notified whether I'm going live, whether I have a show that's coming up. If you want to understand the schedule, make sure you join my locals community at commonsenseshow.locals.com, and you'll get notified with everything that I'm doing there, just in case the YouTube algorithm gods glitch and I'm not able to notify you. So without further ado, let's bring in Brian Freed.
How you doing, Micah? Thank you.
Good. Thank you for the show, and thank you for the heads up there. I really gave you a really good introduction. I just wish people heard it the first time. But anything happens when you go live, right? Like if we recorded this, we could edit that out, but of course, we just kind of dive right in. So the thing that stuck out to me about your biography is that you obviously have 15 patents that you hold, that you've helped manage, bring to market. And people can't even get one idea off the ground, and you just keep churning them out and assisting others with theirs. How do you do it?
Well, by the way, I love the name of your show, Common Sense Show. And what's interesting about inventing, there's people that sometimes say that they want to be an inventor, and then there's people that are actually creating something and they think they're not an inventor. But it's almost like everybody, no matter who you are, at some point or another, you come up with an idea. So to have some common sense, right, of figuring out what to do when you have that idea, or are you somebody that later on is going to say, I woulda, coulda, shoulda, right? I'll leave it to somebody else and let it do it. So for me, one main thing that that makes me come up with ideas is that I'm aware of things that are going on around me. And I think that not only to be aware, but also to stop and capture that idea and think about if it's something that selfishly is only for me, like that just annoy me only, or does it annoy other people? And maybe I'll come up with a solution of to make it better, or if it doesn't exist, to actually put it in the market.
I want to actually address that, but before I do, I want to just know, how is it that you even got into the market of inventions? I mean, really, ideas, because really what you're in is the market of ideas, and not just like the public town square where people are just trading ideas and trying to influence people who are looking in. But I guess maybe in some ways, in a physical sense, you're doing that. But like, what was it that attracted you about this industry in general?
I would say that I realized that I was coming up with good things, and it wasn't just something that I had an issue with. And when I started to ask other people, what they thought about that situation,
Yeah.
I realized that I was onto something. So I started to realize that I had some good stuff. When I came up with ideas, I started to jot them down. I didn't do anything with them for a while. And then as I started to look at things that way, that is it for a specific niche? Is it for mass market? Is it for something else that maybe is too small, or maybe it's mass that I can say, you know what? I might be able, if I pursue this, I might be able to sell enough of these. And I just kind of made the categories and then started to work and get opinion and feedback, and just figure out what to work on and what not to work on. And I made a priority list of just what to work on.
That's fascinating because a lot of products, a lot of inventions obviously require testing. There's money that is required to get them off the ground. We'll talk about that, I'm sure. Um, Tell me, though, about how you manage the focus group aspect and tie that into total addressable market of something that doesn't either exist or um, exist in principle or in some respect, but not totally brought to the market. How do you bridge the gap between what people know exist already and what is possible in the marketplace with that specific invention?
What I do first when I come up with an idea is I go online. I put in a descriptive search to see if my idea already exists. And if there's similar things, I'll still keep a log of the URL of the web link, and just think about if I have enough of a difference, or am I hitting a brick wall? Then I'll go shopping. So where do I envision my idea to be in? Am I in one of the aisles at Walmart? Am I in a specific niche? And am I in a golf store? I'm just giving an example, like, of a
Mhm.
niche. So I go down the aisles, and when I'm online, I'm realistic about what I find, because Micah, a lot of times when people come up with an idea, they get very excited,
Mhm.
right? I have this great idea. I think it's gonna be something that can really change my life. And then you start to make decisions emotionally, and you have to look at, when you come up with an idea, an invention, as a business. You're putting in the research development, you're gonna be putting in time, money, energy, effort. So you have to think about, is this something that I should work on or not? Is this something that I should call my own? Or did I hit a brick wall? Is mine enough of a difference, or should I just move on to my next idea? So these are the things that I think about before I continue to move forward with an idea. So I do my own due diligence first, and then I go through the steps to be able to have something at least to show, and get some opinion feedback, and decide also if it's only for me or for other people.
Now, this is an interesting process, right? Because this is where people often get stuck. People kind of do what you talked about. They'll, well, and maybe not to the degree making the visits to the stores. Maybe they'll kind of casually look around when they're in the stores. It seems like you have intention when you actually go into the stores to look and to monitor to see perhaps what people are buying surrounding the product or what exactly is on the shelves that may be a close iteration of which you're trying to invent or bring to market. Sometimes people get paralyzed by the amount of analysis, okay, analysis by paralysis, and things never actually come to fruition. What's the break point between an idea that's actually worthy of moving forward and one that should be cut on the editing room floor?
When I do that search, first you have to be realistic, right? Like I said, you got to make smart business decisions. So when I come up with that idea, I'm going to capture whatever I can find, and keep my eyes open and peeled to see what's out there. I'm going to collect them, and then I'm going to give what I found to a patent attorney or agent, just to
Mhm.
kind of compare what's already in the patent office, in the USPTO database, what might be out in the market that might not necessarily be patented. And then what they're going to do is they're going to compare what I came up with and what's already out there. And I ask for a patentability opinion. And that's going to compare and see, is there a big enough difference that I can call this my own invention, my own idea? Is it something that I came up with that has already been patented? It's over 20 years old, so now it's in public domain. Anybody can make it.
Mm.
Or am I free and clear? Do I have a chance to make something happen? And if I didn't mention it, I also check to see if I do pursue it, if I'm going to be infringing on somebody else's intellectual property. So once I gather this information, it kind of gives me a direction of what I should do or what I shouldn't do as you progress. So just kind of going a little bit further out, thinking about, is this an invention that I want to license to earn royalties? And you might have heard that term before. Or is it something that I want to manufacture and start my own business and maybe build a brand out of with multiple products and SKUs? So at least I know some of my options here to start with before I pursue it. But it gives me a good understanding of, if I make this, anybody else can make it. It might be out there already. So is mine a big enough difference to really be able to make enough money with it? I look at reviews. I look at how much volume of sales they're doing on Amazon. You could see how many they've sold. And there's a lot of things to figure out and validate if your idea is something that you should pursue or not. But the most important thing, Micah, that a lot of people should do that don't do is to do that search. Just like when you're starting a business, you want to do research and development and see if it's something, what's going to make you different in the market. So that it's very important.
It's funny because you bring up an interesting point, and it made me think of a few things. The difference between starting something that's a manufacturing firm where you're actually going to engage in the manufacturing of your product, and where you have to or license it to someone who will then take that idea and then turn it into something that is closely related to perhaps a product line that they already produce. But it's so important for people who are watching this to understand that when you choose the manufacturing route, that is without a doubt likely the most capital intensive endeavor that you could do in any business. Because not only do you have to have a place to manufacture, you often have to invent the manufacturing tools to actually make whatever it is that you're producing. If they don't already exist, you kind of have to kind of make the process, which also might tie into another form of the patent to market process as well, because there are patents related to how you manufacture products as well. So my question to you is, when you're thinking about making or manufacturing it yourself, what are some of the things that you're looking for in a product that you're going to be manufacturing, you're going to be taking the lead in actually putting it together on your own?
Sure. Micah, when you mentioned about setting up processes, it's relative to what type of product you're going to manufacture. If you have a simple shirt or a bag and it's a cut and sew fabric, you don't necessarily have to do that. You can work with the machines that kind of do cuts and, seams, different types of things. If you're doing wood or metal, plastic injection molding, there's different methods of manufacturing. So what I do when I decide to manufacture a product is to think about how lean I can be with my CAD files, let's say, that I have done, or my specs that I put together, and then to test it and validate if it's something that's going to be able to hold the tension, resistance, durability. So I go through those type of things, and then I have to figure out what it's going to cost me. If it's going to be something that costs a lot and it's going to be more than what the customer would end up paying, then it's not a good business, right? I have to figure out, if I end up making it for X, how much I can sell it for. But I look at how much I could sell it for, and then I work backwards from there to see if I have enough margin. Not only just the margin, sometimes, Micah, people come to me, Brian, cost me $2 to make. I want to sell it for $3. That's not a great business model. Right. You want to be able to have at least 3x to 5x of margin there, to be able to not only incorporate the you're talking about operational expenses, right? Some stuff you have commission that you might have to pay, and you also want to pay yourself, right? So you're taking a risk. How much are you putting in versus how much are you going to get out? But look, you can come up with really complex products. And then I've come up with some ideas that really haven't broken the bank, but actually end up doing well. You want me to show you one of them that I manufacture?
Yeah, and I just wanted to make a point while you do that, which is that the other thing too is your upstream supplier costs are going to be significantly higher until you reach something close to market equilibrium for your product. So initially, what it costs you to manufacture that product is going to be a lot higher because the materials will just cost more because you're producing less. But as people adopt the product more and it goes into the market, then your costs come way down, and then you'll reach some kind of operating equilibrium in the marketplace because you'll understand more what people are willing to pay for the product. But yeah, let's check out your product.
Absolutely. So uh, during COVID, I was very into what I had because it was not difficult to get. It was difficult to find paper towel rolls. And I
Mm.
noticed that the top of the paper towel rolls were usually wet and then dried up, or they had tomato sauce on it or dirt. And I started to ask my friends and family to take pictures of the top of their paper towel roll. And it was disgusting, Micah. So I said I have something in mind. Like, what are you up to now, Brian? Let's hear it. I'm like, just wait. So what I did was I came up and I designed this simple cap that has some tabs in the underneath. And now you slip this in to the inner tube of any paper towel roll. So when your hands are wet or dirty, you put it on top, you pull the sheet off, and it stays clean and dry. And it also keeps it tight around the roll. So
Mhm.
that's my paper towel topper that's been selling pretty well on Amazon and my general website, papertoweltopper.com. So you can find simple things to manufacture, and hopefully you have the margin in there. And these days, also, Micah, when you're selling things, people don't expect to pay shipping anymore. So you have to kind of amortize the cost of the shipping into the product to be able to make it so it's presentable for somebody to purchase. So
And
there's a lot
how do you do
there.
that? Let's talk about that process really quickly because this show is about not just about business strategy and ideas, but it's also about I have a heavy implementation bent to the show as well. So let's talk about building the cost of shipping. And now I know that that's after the product is already completed and you have some idea of what it is and you've gone down the road, but it's still important, I think, to address how it is that you see pricing, including shipping, and how you work out the economics of that, so that because when you include shipping, the only thing that the consumer sees is that as a cost to them, and then that cost can price them out of your product, right? So,
Yep.
how do you balance the cost to produce your product with the expectations of our current consumer environment?
I have to really break down the numbers. It's got to make sense. I've had products that I've wanted to manufacture that just couldn't get to the number. If I'm trying to work with a local US factory, which I have and I do,
Mhm.
is there enough still to be able to make it so a consumer can pay that amount? But if it's 3 to 4 times more to manufacture it here in the US, do I have those margins available and there for me? So if let's say if I end up doing it overseas, I have to think about, okay, how much does it cost? Then I got to put packaging in, then I got to put the shipping from overseas in, and the taxes, duties, and all that. And then now I have my product all in with what it's going to cost. And then, okay, that's where I start when it's here. And then I have to figure out, okay, if I'm going to put it for 12.95, if I'm going to put it for 9.95, it's a lot easier to come down. Sometimes when a product is in demand, you can raise it a little bit,
Right.
but you have to just balance it out, and you have to be the boss. It's your product, your concept, and you just want to be able to figure out if it makes sense or not.
Do you start with the margin in mind before you go in? Do you like reverse engineer it from the beginning, or do you think about the margins kind of when you're down the road a bit?
I like to think of things from a consumer perspective. I
Mhm.
like to think about what the price is
Mhm.
and then get quotes. And
Mhm.
if my quotes make sense, then I'm going to continue. And if they don't, I got to keep beating it down. And you mentioned earlier, is it based on my minimum order quantity? A lot of times when you're working on a new idea, new invention, you want to manufacture it, you don't need 100,000 units in your garage to start with, right? You want to be able to start off with a small order to be able to validate and check to see if the market is going to appreciate it and start to purchase. So you might have a little bit higher cost there, but at least you can test. So you might make less margin in the beginning, but at least you know where you stand. So yeah, there's a lot of strategies, and I think that every product has its own kind of path, because if you're competing with a million other products that are very similar, then it might be harder to get your product in front of people. Like, for example, Mike, I have this product called Extra Space. It's a collapsible egg tray. So as you put your eggs in, you push it back until there's that much space left, right, that you need in the fridge. So are you going on Amazon, for example, and trying to look for a collapsible egg tray? You might not know that it exists. So what I have to do is, when you're looking for an egg tray, I have to come up as a suggestion of another possible type of egg tray that you would consider. So some I have to work harder to get you to know what it is, or if it's out there, and others kind of fit right in. So you just have to balance, and you have to do your due diligence to know that you're going to get activity and traffic on a product. And just one other point, these days, Micah, you don't have to necessarily be in a major retail store to be successful. There's so many alternatives, right? You have, of course, Amazon and eBay, and you could be on Lowe's.com. You could be on all these different Etsy.com. You could be on all these Walmart.com. You could be on all these websites and be able to generate sales, but you got to put some marketing dollars into them so people know that you exist.
Yeah. What is your typical framework for marketing cost? Do you go a percentage of, what, how do you determine it? Percentage of sales made, of initial sales made, or do you just come up with a fixed budget? Because obviously there's some marketing ramp there that needs to be done.
I look to see how much marketing I'm putting in and what I'm getting in return. And I have to, I know the margins that I have and what I'm willing to give up to be able to get one. But Micah, there's people that I work with that I've looked and seen them grow. And sometimes you get so excited about all the sales that you do. And I'm like, okay, well, how much are you paying for advertising? And the advertising is more than what they're making. So you feel good that you're getting all these sales and you're building up a brand and all that. I respect that. But along the way, you also want to consider making money, right? Not putting yourself into more debt and then having to borrow and then giving up percentages of your company. And then all of a sudden it's like, what just happened? So I like to balance, and the balance is a trial and error. I don't think there's any crystal ball. Like I said, I think every product and way that it gets marketed or perceived in the market has its own journey. But you gotta check, watch, recheck. If something's working, great, keep pressing it. Try other things, because this way might not work tomorrow. So just keep testing and adding things that are going to be able to sell. And when something doesn't work, pull it back so you have room to try something else. And that's what I do, is I put a few things that work and I turn it into machines, and then I let that roll. Keep always looking for something new, and then I keep working on other inventions and helping other people with theirs. So keep busy.
I love the paper towel protector that you made. Everyone has tomato sauce on their paper towel roll, I think, or some kind of strange substance that they don't know what it is. And sometimes I can be quite germophobic, OCD, whatever you want to call it. And so I just throw the whole thing away because I can't identify what it is on the top of that. So that one kind of resonated with me. So your process is interesting, and how you kind of investigate a product to invent, to manufacture idea. How do you ideate? How do you kind of is it just about walking around? Is it just about, I mean, you talked about common sense, but common sense is not common necessarily all the time. do you have a process that you've used to ideate before, to like a way to look around, or a place for to extract suggestions?
I do a lot of people watching, and I watch myself quite a bit, and I see what annoys me.
Hmm.
I see the problems that people have that I wish can make things better. So
Mhm.
I either wait for something or I look around, which I first do, but I also find a way to make it better or to come
Right.
up with something that doesn't exist. So look, you wake up in the morning, you have something that's waking you up. You have an alarm clock, you have somebody nudging you that had to use their alarm clock, or you get out of bed, then you're in the bathroom, you're washing your hands, your face, brushing teeth, you're going into the kitchen. There's kitchen gadgets and electrics, and there's so many things that are going on. Then you're out the door, you're getting somebody up on the school bus, or you're driving, or you're taking public transportation. So there's so many things on a daily basis in your routine that are happening, and you just let them happen every day. But what
Mm.
I do, and other people that are inventors, and if you have that mindset to say, you know what, I keep doing this. It takes me four things to get this one thing done that I really could do this way. So let me come up with and figure out if it does make sense, not only for me, but for other people. And Micah, one thing that I do when I come up with ideas, and I think I've had a good run with a lot of products, is to figure out what my window of opportunity is. So, for example, I came up with this product called Pull Ties. It's a bag sealer. So you take any plastic bag, cereal bag, freezer bag, you put it through the loop, you pull it up, and it seals it tight. So I was on QVC with this for about 3 years. Okay.
Right.
So it was originally, I came up with it originally for bread bags. I didn't like the twist ties and the
Mhm.
plastic tabs. They annoyed me. So I said, okay, I'll come up with this. But there's a lot of bags in around. I went into the pantry. There was cereal bags that were left open, not or crunched down. I went into the freezer, and the freezer bags were left open, and my French fries had freezer burn on it. So what I did was I went into different parts of your kitchen, and at the end of the day, and the reason I think I know I sold pretty well on QVC, for example, is I said, how many people have a kitchen? I
Right.
win, right? Most people do. But if you're kind of niche, then you have to think about who it is that you're going to sell to and how much time you have in that window. Like if it's an infant from 0 to 3, I know there's always infants that are kind of turning over, but that's your audience.
Right.
You know what I mean? So today, but kitchen is here.
Mhm.
So that's what I kind of do when I come up with an idea is I almost like I check it, I see what's out there, I see if it's a big enough problem for others, enough of a difference. I figure out if I'm going to manufacture it or if I'm going to license it. Is there a big enough window of opportunity? Am I going to make money with it? Am I going to put my time, money, energy, effort in, and am I going to get something back out? So those are the type of things that I think about, and how much is it going to cost me along the way to get to that point. So it's almost like that's my like that's what I do when I look at my ideas that I come up with, other people's ideas. I can almost look all the way of where it could be, and then come back to where you are, and then help you to get to where you want to go. That's what I do.
Yeah, smart. What are some of the hidden cost of creating these inventions? So, because people often say, "Oh, I spent $500 and now I'm making seven figures,"
Mm.
and here I have a product. But there are hidden costs along the way that no one. What they mean is they spent $500 on the latest iteration of their product, um, and that one just happened to hit. But what are some of the hidden costs that people are just not aware of creating an invention that could be successful?
Well, you have the cost, like I mentioned in the beginning. I think it's important to do a patent search, so
Mhm.
you can spend anywhere between 250 and 2000 for a comprehensive patent search with a patentability opinion. Then you have creating it. So when I first started, I used to take apart toys and different things, my daughter's toys, and twist and turn them and rip things apart and put them together, mix and match things to get as close as I could. And that cost me the cost of what's already existing in retail in the
Right.
store. or I have to work with an engineer or just a product designer or a seamstress to cut something the way I want. I have to figure out, or somebody who's doing CNC machining and cutting and tooling. So I have to figure out what those costs are. But obviously, it's relative to what the idea is. I showed you a couple of them that are kind of simple, right?
Right.
So the you have to, it could end up being that $500, $300. It could be a few $1,000s. Then you want to make a prototype. Do you have to 3D print the prototype? Can you have somebody put things together? Does it require electronics? So these are the variables. So it could cost a few $100s or it could cost thousands of dollars, depending on how long it takes for somebody to get it to that point. So I
Mhm.
think the prototyping sometimes catches people by surprise. I think also that when you're filing for a patent, there are variables of what those can cost. It could cost anywhere from $4,000 from a utility patent, otherwise known as non-provisional patent application, but maybe you want to do a provisional patent application first. That's less expensive, and that gives you the right for 1 year to say that you're patent pending. And while that's happening, you're exploring the market, making decisions, and then before that year is done, that's when you would file the non-provisional utility patent. Or is it just ornamental? Is it something that's just how it looks that you want to protect? So that can end up being $2,000. Okay. And
Right.
then there's maintenance fees on the on the non-provisional utility patent. There's maintenance fees along the way. There's none for a design patent. So those are the type of decisions that I figure out with a patent attorney or agent. At this point, I can see things and kind of give a good roadmap of what things look like and what things cost. And then you have that fork in the road, like we kind of addressed earlier, is are you going to manufacture it and start your own business, or are you going to license it to earn royalties? So I'm going to go to the store that I envision my product to be sold in. I'm going to look at the products that are out there. I think they would be good partners. I think my product would align well with theirs. I'm going to call them up. I'm going to see if they're interested in licensing my intellectual property, whether it's patented or patent pending. And and if they like it, they're going to manufacture it, distribute it, and I'll earn a royalty from it. So
Right.
real quick, Michael, like this, you've seen these tongues that have the pull up and it locks, right?
Yep.
So what I did was I took this out, this top part, and I put grooves in it. And now I have a utility patent on this. So there are companies out there that sold tongues, right? But mine, for the same price as what you'd pay for another one, has an extra feature of adjusting. So it doesn't have to open up like all the way. It
Right.
adjusts along the way. So that's why this has been in the market pretty well. So I went to companies to see if they'd be interested in adding it to their product line. And I'm proud to say I'm under Farberware.
Nice. Well,
So
congratulations on that one.
thank
That's
you.
awesome.
So,
Um, and I I thought about something actually, which is what are some mistakes that people who are just getting into this make when it comes to, okay, let's say that their product gets the attention like you talked about, with the grooves on the back of the cooking tongs, right? So you're doing this, and oftentimes, people, because we have imposter syndrome and just self-doubt in general, we think that it's not going to hit. But sometimes the person on the other end actually picks up the phone and says, hey, well, that actually sounds like a interesting idea, we'd love to hear more. What are some strategies that bigger companies use to take control of designs or patents that people who are new at this need to be aware of?
well, first off, if you really want to be the shining star of your invention, realistically, you might be limited with what involvement you're going to be uh, doing with this transaction or with this partnership, because they already have they're a licensee, and you would be the licensor with the intellectual property, right? With the patent, and we didn't even talk about trademarks yet, but for the patent, you should know that some companies like you to have full CAD files, full designs ready to go.
Mhm.
Some of them would require you to have a fully issued patent. some of them don't mind if you're patent pending, as long as you did some good due diligence, like that patent search that we spoke about earlier.
Right.
And some of them want to hear your suggestions, and others will say, you know what, we have a design team in house. We'll take it from here. You did a good job. You can keep tweaking it and tweaking it and tweaking it, but we already know what it's going to look like. Right. And so hands off. And they're like, but this is my baby, my invention. Okay, well, that's fine. We work with buyers that sell to the consumers, and you're coming to us because we're a player in the industry. We communicate with the buyers and the customer to know, and you've done a great job to this point. So sit back. We'll show you things as you're going along, but we got it from here, and enjoy the royalties along the way. So I've learned to kind of, it's not, this isn't a blanket statement. Every company, every product, every person is different that you talk to. So there could be one, like recently I had one that it was a product for kids, and the company welcomed and involved the inventor in the beginning of the transaction with designs and feedback and thought, and that was amazing. But then there's other ones that are, we got our team, we know what to do, we got your intellectual property, we're renting the rights to it for the time that we're working on it. We know that we're forecasting that we're going to do X amount year 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If we do, you'll keep that, we'll keep the agreement going. And if we don't, either we make up for the minimum guarantee that we said, otherwise it'll become non-exclusive. And or we can terminate the agreement. And that's the thing, is you want to be good with your partners. You're going to them because they know what they're doing, and you want to be able to go to the A players to get as much as you can. They know what to do. They have the relationships. That's why you went to them.
What role does a good non-disclosure agreement play with these companies in ensuring that you have one that protects you from them just taking your invention and bringing it to market themselves?
Remember, we started off by doing the patent search, patentability opinion. We might have taken some things apart or worked with a designer to get it to a point where we have a good prototype and we see how it looks or works. And then we might want to file that provisional patent application and become patent pending. So I'm comfortable showing my inventions patent pending, right? I'm showing it. Maybe things don't happen. All of a sudden, boom, I have a patent, right? Or maybe I didn't. Maybe I hit a brick wall and the patent office came back and they gave me office actions and I might not do anything with it. But going back, when I came up with it, I did a patent search. Most likely I'm using a patent attorney or agent. So I don't necessarily need a non-disclosure agreement because they're bound by the laws.
Right.
If I'm going to show, let's say, a product designer, engineer, prototype, or those type of people, and I'm not patent pending yet, then I may ask them to sign a non-disclosure agreement. And what that means, Micah, if I have you sign one, I'm showing you my invention. That means that you're not going to talk about my idea to anybody without my permission. Okay. You can find them online. I have one that I've used from a government agency many years ago. You can find it on my website, which is right under my name, brianfried.com. It's all the way at the bottom of the footer. You can print it out and use it if you'd like, but it's good. I think it's important. If you're going to a company, I would probably be at least patent pending, because if you're going to ask them for a non-disclosure, they might have their own. Whether or not you have patent pending or patents, they may still have you sign a non-disclosure agreement. But if you're patented, then it's already in the public, right? You can pull it up and see exactly what it is. It doesn't matter. But maybe you're talking about other things like manufacturing costs or things that you might have had seen that could be challenges or what. But yeah, I mean, if you're, sometimes when you go into the big companies, it might get hung up in the non-disclosure agreement world. That's why I like to kind of put that layer of at least having patent pending in there. So yeah, you want to protect yourself, and we need to do the best that we can, follow what we know, and not worry about people stealing and everything else. Like, if you're following the path, you can only hope that you're doing the right thing.
Right.
You know, you look back a little bit, but you have to keep moving forward. Otherwise, somebody else is going to do it.
Well, now, when you're trademarking your name, your logo type, font, your, for the product that you're bring into one of these companies if you're doing a licensing deal? Does it often like, do you sell the brand separate from the product usually? And the deals that you've done, has it been all inclusive, and all of them roll up into the deal, or how do you manage the brand asset versus the actual tangible product?
A lot of times people come up with ideas and I come up with ideas, and it's like your baby. You want to put a name on it. But what your name is, if you're going to license it to earn royalties, your name might not be the name that they want.
Hmm.
So it might not make a difference. You can go through trademarking your name, but usually you'll get a trade. You can put a TM on anything that you want, right? That you're selling and that you're using in commerce for that particular class of goods. When you file it at the trademark office, US Patent and Trademark Office, trademark division, and you show that you're using it in commerce and this is how you're using it in that particular class of goods, your TM can turn into an R, a registered mark. So you can build assets and you can get a domain name and all that stuff, and then you give it to the company and you're part of the deal, and like, we're not going to use that. We have our own name, it'll go under our own brand, whatever.
Mhm.
So sometimes if I'm selling something and it's doing well and it built up some kind of recognition with the name, then they may want to consider doing that. Okay, they might want to add your assets with the copyrights and trademarks and domain names and all that to it. If you're going to manufacture it yourself, then perhaps the trademark and the copyrights and those type of things are more important, because that's what you're going to go and market under.
Hmm.
So those are the things that I think about, Micah. Like, I always love to come up with a name, whether they use it or not. It's
Right.
fun, and I'm proud to have named a lot of products out there. And I like to get people involved. If somebody comes to me with an idea, I tell them to, like, when my daughter was growing up, she used to help me come up with names for my inventions. You know what I mean? So it's good. Like, you own it.
It's
But
good practice to get into
yeah,
too, right? Because, like, in the case where someone values the entire collection, right, the whole mosaic of your intellectual property, the product and the brand itself, then you're talking about even more money. And if you own the website and if you own the social medias around it, like, you have even more. So one of the tips that my IP attorney told me was, whenever you come up with a service or a product that you're thinking about trademarking, copywriting, patenting, whatever, you get everything that's involved in the circle around it. Just make that a part of your cost of doing business. You grab all the social media accounts, which don't cost you anything. There's a little cost for grabbing the domain names, and you grab as many as you can, because you never know, and you just want to create a bundle of assets that kind of go along with the idea, the product, the service, whatever it is that you're delivering.
absolutely. And as far as the trademark, you can file a trademark with intent to use, to
Mhm.
show, and whether you file it for intent to use or not, if you start using a TM, then you can start putting people on notice, and you just keep a record of when you started to sell it. But if you're not selling it, then you'll just have to wait until you do, to be able to show the patent office that you're using it in commerce. And
Right.
that's when it'll turn in from a TM to an R. But before I start to go crazy with a name, I do go on uspto.gov. I go into the trademark section. I put in the name. I look at the class of goods that are using it. And as long as I'm not going to confuse the consumer with this name and this certain class of goods, then I can use it. So I'm not a patent attorney or agent. I'm pretty good with patent and contract law, but just for the record, this is only my opinion.
Right. Yeah, yeah, good call out. I think that I think that's right. And going through the processes, it's always important when you have a product or a service that you're planning on bringing into a market, whether it's a regional market, a local market, or a national market. It's always good practice to try to get the highest level of protection that you can. So even when you think about a name, you think about the name Google. Google has like the highest level of protection that you can, not just because everybody uses it, but because it's actually not a word, right? It is now. It is part of the lexicon. It's a verb, right? It's also it also describes, it's an adjective to describe an action that you took to search for more information. I mean, but it didn't exist, and so because it has like this name that's invented out of thin air, it you know it has the highest level of protections. It's one of the things that my IP attorney told me, which was to try to stay away from, Brian's Brian's cooking shears or Brian's cooking tongs or something like that, because it's so generic that even if in theory you could get a trademark issued and not have a lot of protection. And I think sometimes people get things trademarked or unlike a patent, a trademark, you can have protection, but you can still be sued for infringement, even having had something issued if it's not very unique, if it's very common. I have an interesting story about getting a name for a company that I trademarked when I was franchising my business. I had to undertake the changing of my brand for my business, and I had to enlist the help of customers to do a focus group on what the name was going to change to before I franchised. And then I did, and then I changed it. And then my IP attorney ran a search for the name. And then basically what happened after that is he said, the name checks out with one exception. There's one company out there that's I don't know if it's entirely similar, but it's similar enough where there could be some confusion, but you need to check it out. And he said, I don't think it's a great idea. I said, but this is the name. This is the name. This is the name that my customers have chosen, Brian. This is it right here. I said, so what do I do? And so he said, okay, here's what you do. He said, write a letter to the, try to see if you can get in contact with the owner of this firm that has the name and see if they'll give you permission to coexist in the marketplace with them under a name that's very similar. And he said, well, I don't think it's going to happen. He goes, there's 0% chance if you don't try it, but there's really like a 2% chance that it'll actually work. I said, fine, that sounds like a challenge to me. So I went to my computer. I punched up a coexistence request to this company. Hey, similar, but different. And this is how, and I appreciate what you all do. I looked at your product and I think we can coexist without any confusion and blah, 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 blah. I shot that email off to the owner, the CEO of the company. Do you know I got a response back in 2 hours? And the response was, sure, I don't see a problem with it.
Cool.
Type up an agreement and let me know. Within 48 hours, we had a coexistence agreement signed, and we sent, we had that punched up in order to kind of exist in the marketplace. But, I think that even if a name exists out there, it doesn't mean that it's the end of the road for, or it's close. It doesn't mean that's the end of the road for an idea that you might have. I think that you can still push it.
Just like an idea, an invention, you come up with one and it already exists, you move on to your next one. Same thing with a name or anything else, right? You just keep moving forward.
So what is the first, what are the first kind of couple things that a person can do tomorrow if they have an idea that they've been percolating for a long time, that they're interested in kind of moving to the next stage? They work a 9 to 5, maybe they work part-time, they have perhaps limited resources. What are some practical things that they can do to kind of move that idea further down the timeline?
Look, I mentioned it earlier. Every person and product is different, has a different path. Some people have funds for it. Some people might be limited. So there's a lot of options and ways that this journey can happen. So you can find similar type of things that maybe you can compare, but do all of the characteristics match? Or, this is what I do, Micah. I'm so zoned in on when you have an idea, like I'd love to be the first one that you come to. Because I'm going to figure out if it's something that you should work on or not. Is it something that you should put your time, money, energy, effort into? Who are you, right? Is it something that you want to manufacture and start a business, be an entrepreneur that way, or do you want to license it to earn royalties? And I figure all that out. Is it something that you want to be your full-time job? Is it something that you want to just keep as a side hustle and earn some residual income? So I help you to make those type of decisions. And then again, figure out where you are, come back to where you are, and help you to get to where you want to go. So I have books. I have my book called How to Make Money with Your Invention Idea. It's available in all the bookstores. I have other books, but this is my latest one, which I think is really good. Simple, quick read. Look at real thin, nice and easy. Get you on your way. There's a lot of points in there to tell you to stop and wait for your next idea. I do one-on-one consulting. So you schedule time with me and I end up talking to you about your idea. And, you know, a lot of times, Mike, I help people to realize that they should stop and work on their next idea. And I'm okay with that. I don't mind if it's the last time that I ever speak to you, because at least I know that you made the decision that realistically what you're putting in is probably limited on what you're going to get out, but you make that decision. And then I have my National Inventor Club, which is I have tens of thousands of people involved with National Inventor Club. It's a monthly meeting, and National Inventor Club is now in my app. I launch an app for inventors called Inventor Smart Community. So there's a lot of ways to get involved with me and in my world. The e-learning course is inventorclass.com. It's a about 3-hour e-learning course that you could do DIY, or you could just call me and I'll go through and figure out if you have something that maybe you could be the next gazillionaire inventor with.
Awesome. Brian Fried, everyone. What a wonderful episode this was. Again, unique, but you know, Inventor Smart, all your inventions that you've brought to the market and have been successful with. I think that people have really gotten some good ideas about kind of the direction that they should go and what are the next steps that they should take. BrianFried.com, that the link to Brian's website will be in the description to the podcast, both on YouTube and the audio version. And if you have an idea that's, like I said, been developing in your mind for some time that you're looking to take a next step, check Brian out, schedule a consultation with him so that you can go over your idea and make sure that you're on the right track to see it succeed. Brian, thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Micah. Appreciate it.
All right, everyone. So before I actually end the podcast for today, I wanted to let you know about something that was brand new that I have that's going. I just kind of launched it. And so I'm going to share my screen right here to just kind of show you what it is. I launched a new product business tool and resource page on my website, micah-logan.com. And here you'll be able to get various guides based off of the stuff that I talk about on this podcast, like developing SOPs for your business. Talk about the complete guide to creating processes for your business, the complete guide to setting KPIs, how to establish systems to reduce business risk in your business, how to lay the foundation for developing your brand promise. Everything that I talk about on my podcast to help you take your business to the next level, I have actually available in an easy to read and put together guide that you can work through almost like a workbook to make sure that you can create the highest possible elements of success for your business. So if you go to micah-logan.com, go to business tools, you'll see all the guides there. You can pick them up. There's no guide there that's more than $60. In fact, they're between $39 and $59. So if you're watching this and you're an entrepreneur or a business owner, go ahead and get your copy of one of the guides that makes sense for your business. And yeah, I can't wait to hear your feedback on that. All right. So Brian, awesome guest. We had a great time. On behalf of Brian, I'm Micah, and don't forget, if you don't go to work on your business, you're going to be going to work on the business of someone else. Until next time, peace.